Sue, welcome to the programme. Thanks for joining us.
It's awesome to be here.
Enjoyed reading your book very much. I mean, it's something I'd never realised, because we've spoken before, but I hadn't realised that when it started, that actually it wasn't an easy time in your own life, was it? I mean, you'd just come out of your own family trauma. Yeah,
those early years were actually really difficult, stretching years. The years immediately prior to setting up Orphans Aid, it had felt like a lot of things in my life had been tipped upside down. But it's almost like sometimes they have to be tipped upside down for you to look at it and say, actually, what do I really want to do with my life? And you know, where's God in all of this? And what's important? So very, very much so, a very topsy-turvy time. But at the same time, God, you're there somewhere. You know, let's make sense of this. How do we deal with with life? And how do I make my life count? Yeah.
So you ended up in Romania, and you found yourself with kids who had absolutely nothing.
That's right.
Just tell us a bit about what you found there when you went to that hospital, because
yes.
it was shocking.
That's right. Well, actually, the first time I went to Romania, I was afraid of finding children. I felt like if I find them, I don't know how I'll cope with that. Fortunately, that first trip, I wasn't presented with that. By the time we were ready, we really felt it was time to set up a home, and I had seen orphan children at that point, but I hadn't actually seen children that we were going to be directly involved with. But when I first met them, yeah, it was a very gut-wrenching is probably a good way to put it. It draws something very deep in you. Here's some children, they have nobody, they've been left, they're neglected in every sense of the word, body, soul and spirit, and I've got the opportunity to change their life. I can walk out of here today and I can say that was sad. I can go home and tell everybody about this sad story, or we can actually look at them and say, actually, we can change your life, and we're going to. One example, one of the children that's very dear to us, he was 3, he couldn't walk, talk or eat, and when he came into our home, he still had his umbilical cord meshed into his tummy area, and he was 3, you know, so it tells you something. He had to learn to walk, he had to learn to talk, he had to learn at 3 what a spoon was in his mouth. He's doing really great now, but yet not good situations, and you know, the name of the book is Rescue. Orphans Aid International, our logo is the abandoned rescued, and that's what we really want. We really do want to rescue children like that who really have nobody, and when you're in front of them you really are feeling a bit sick, you know, but the only way that you can really cope with that is by actually choosing to do something about it and letting that shape your activities from that point. So very much life-changing decisions at that time.
Because I mean, you described some of the kids. They were in a white room with nurses in white uniforms with a white cot and white bedding. Yes. Everything was white, so there was absolutely no stimulation. And you said that you put your hand in front of one of their faces, and there was no flicker of anything.
Yeah, one of the little boys, he's about 9 months old. I thought, you know, at 9 months they should be focusing, but yeah, just nothing there. Yeah. And I think just they've almost learnt how to be quiet. And when the children first came into the home, my first time visiting the home after it had opened, I was expecting a lot of noise. There was infants in the house. It was deadly silent. No noise, because the children had all learnt that when you cry nothing happens, so they were very quiet until they learnt that actually when they made a noise someone did respond, and then the volumes went up. But yeah, there's some very sad situations. Some of the situations I've found probably more traumatic are older children that I've seen have been 15 or 16 years of age, but they look more like 3 or 4 year olds. Yeah. But that's why we want to rescue these children, particularly while we can, while they're young, and you know, physically their bodies have a chance to recover, and mentally they have a chance to recover.
So what's actually happened to them? How have they found themselves in that situation? Why have they ended up there?
Yeah, many different reasons, and you don't like to lump them all together, but the ones that sort of spring to mind, a lot of them have been just left at a hospital. So perhaps mum's very young. For instance, a child that we've just placed in the last 2 weeks, mum was only 13 years of age, 13-year-old mum, and we've just placed her 4-month-old baby actually with a family who adopted one other child from our home. So that's actually a really exciting story. That baby's gone into a loving home, and hopefully mum, the 13-year-old, will get the help she needs. But many different reasons. So that one was a young mum. Other situations have been very bad, very poor areas. You know, you sort of think, well, why would someone leave their child at a hospital? What a crazy thing to do. How could anyone do that? But then when you go to the village, perhaps where that child come from, you can sort of see, actually, I can understand why they went to the hospital, because in the village, maybe dad was beating them up. There was no food, negative 20-degree temperatures. Mum, you know, not able to look after maybe a string of children. So they've probably done what they consider the lesser of the two evils. It's almost seemed for them to be kind to put them at the hospital. Whereas for us, we think, how could anybody leave their child at the hospital? Which just shows how extreme some of these situations are. Very dirt poor, you know, no housing. And I think if your child's going to freeze to death, you're best to take it down to the hospital, because maybe it won't freeze.
Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll chat some more about what happens to them after that.
Thank you.
And welcome back to NZone Focus. Our guest on the programme today is Sue van Schreven, who is the author of this book, Rescue, which outlines the beginning of Orphans Aid International. So before the break, we were talking about how some of the kids in your first home in Romania had come from the worst possible situation. That they were malnourished, they had no intellectual stimulation, had no stimulation at all. You know, they were as poor could be. So what happens to them? You had set up your home, your first orphanage in Romania by then. So what happens to them once they come to your home?
Well, we're really trying to love them like we would our own children. So, you know, actually, you look at them in their situation and you think, if that was my child, boy, how different the life would be. So what does this child need? You know, it needs some security, some stability, some parents would be a great start, some food, some good, you know, some of the real basics we take for granted. Receiving the love they need, receiving the nurture that they need. And, you know, hopefully if we can find parents for them, we've placed more than 20 of them now into their own families, so that's great. So when we place a child, we can bring another one into the home. So, and some of those children are in foster, some of them have been adopted out. So, yeah, looking at the bigger picture, some children may be with us a short time. If we can get them into a permanent mum and dad situation, fantastic. Some of them may be with us to the point where they're needing to go off to university. So a little bit like our own children, you know, what are their individual needs and what's best for that child.
One of the interesting things, though, is that, I mean, you mentioned at the beginning how people assumed that you must have linked up with some huge international organisation that was running this, and actually, it was pretty much you.
Yes.
You and a few mates in Invercargill.
That's right.
And it seems like so often you had this hand-to-mouth existence as you were trying to do things. You know, you had no money, and then just enough money would come in to fulfil whatever was needed next. Right.
And that's one of the reasons too I wanted to write the book, was as time goes on you can forget some of the detail, and actually there's been a lot of miracles along the way, and I wanted to record those and I wanted to write them down, and for a couple of reasons. Is I wanted people to understand that actually God had provided, actually He is interested in the orphan and the widow, and also I wanted to encourage other people that if you do what it is that you're meant to do, God will do what He has said He will do. God does care, He does work miracles, and I just wanted to encourage those that were out there that were stepping out to give something a go, that, you know, if it's in the heart of God, if it's practically loving and caring for people, it'll happen, you know, and just to step out and let God be God, and you do your bit, and the rest will be history.
Tell me about Carl, your husband, and you've got two boys, Ben and Daniel.
Yes.
They must be pretty special men, I reckon, to put up with you gallivanting around the world like you do.
Yeah, I reckon they are. Actually, I think they're more than special. Yeah, my husband, he has been amazing, because He, as you probably know, I've put in the book, you know, he could have stopped things earlier on, and he was risking his own reputation, his own finances. But I think it's been a faith journey for both of us. We've seen God come through, and there's been times when I've sort of been a little bit wavering of, oh, it almost feels like it's too hard. And Carl will say, yeah, but look what happened last time. Look, you know, and you pull each other. That's the beauty of a relationship, isn't it? You know, the strength in a good marriage, you know. So, yeah, he has been tremendous, and has had the grace to help carry the load. And it is one of those things too, you know, if it's not working for your family, you've got to question it, don't you? You know, and the boys, they've seen some things that have been pretty hair-raising. I took my 12-year-old son with me to India last year, and that was a traumatic time for him, actually. And I kind of wondered at one point whether I threw him in the deep end too much. But, you know, this is the world we live in. There's a lot of needs out there. And, you know, we can be the answer to those needs. Because
now you've expanded beyond Romania. You're in Russia, India?
Yes, Russia and India are the two main areas. So, yeah, we've
different set of challenges, I would imagine.
Absolutely, and connected with some really great people. But once again, just seeing different people come in, and the needs have come at the right time. You know, sometimes you can't see it, but when you step out, the answer comes. So that's one of the things I've wanted to encourage through the book is, you know, what is the dream that God's given to you, and you know, to begin to pursue that. Yeah.
One of the people who really struck me when I read the book, who is towards the end of the book when you go to India, is Lynn Baxter, who's from a Queenstown family.
Yes.
She was quite remarkable, wasn't she?
She was, yeah. Lynn unfortunately passed away after our trip to India, and that was actually quite a trial of a time too, because Lynn had grown to become a wonderful friend and was really supportive of the vision of Orphans Aid International. And yeah, it was quite a hard time around that time financially and in many ways. But what I didn't know when Lynn had passed away was that, yes, she had bequested some art to Orphans Aid International, which we're really wanting to build on in the years to come, to provide funds for long after I've gone, you know, long after when my children, maybe when my grandchildren, you know, that long after in years to come there'll be funds to help orphanages, to help orphans far and wide. So yeah, Lynn's legacy will live on, although she's not with us anymore. She left this amazing gift, and now it's our job to use it wisely, to find the greatest needs. But wonderful how people can be here, but can also go. You know, she obviously went to be with the Lord, but she's left resources to work for orphan children. So, yeah.
There's a quote at the beginning of the book, which actually I read to a friend just before we read the interview. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than by the ones that you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbour, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. That was Mark Twain.
That's awesome, isn't it?
You did that.
Yeah, thank you. I hadn't thought of it like that. Thank you.
It's a privilege to meet you, Sue. Thank you very much indeed.
Bless you. Thank you. It's great to be here.